This is ridiculous. The biggest threat to the BLK woman is not white tea supremacy. It's the BLK man. Black women are always getting taken out by a BLK man.
Now to tragedy in Coral Springs. The husband of the city's vice mayor is facing a murder charge, accused of killing his wife.
My soul is heavy. My heart is broken. And we know that time is going to move and time is going to do its thing. But for us that are in this city, in the city hall, that have been touched or impacted by Vice Mayor Nancy Bowen, that is something, that is a loss that is going to take a lot of time to deal with.
Okay, so the Bible has that whole section about a man being the head of his household. And Stephen Bowen had clearly dog-eared every single one of those pages, honey. Read them so many times the ink faded. What he kept skipping, though, consistently, like every Sunday, twice, were the pages about love being patient, love being kind, love not walking into the bedroom with a shotgun and a pillow he personally stitched into a makeshift silencer with his own 2 hands. Those pages? Untouched. Not a highlighter mark in sight. Because this man looked at the entire internet and decided the 3 things the world needed to know about him were God, husband, armed. That's it. No career, no community. Not one word about the woman he married who was actively, out loud, changing the state of Florida. Just God, husband, armed. In that order, by the way. And it wasn't just a bio. He was living it out. He ran a non-profit for men about living successfully in the eyes of God. Their biggest recent events: a Bible study huddle, and a steak night, March 7th, if you need the date. Meanwhile, his wife Nancy was the vice mayor of Coral Springs, environmental scientist, Johns Hopkins master's degree, worked in the Obama administration, Florida's vote director for both Biden and Harris, re-elected to her seat, and her competition. Nobody, not one single person filed to run against her, and she was, the very week she died, finalizing her announcement to run for Congress. So on one side of this marriage, you have a woman presidents were calling. And on the other side, a man whose biggest logistical concern that month was apparently the grade of beef. I am not going to tell you what that gap does to a certain type of man. I am going to let this story tell you. Because on the night of March 31st, 2026, Stephen Bowen made a decision. And when it was done, he didn't run, didn't panic, didn't call anyone. He went downstairs, and he slept. Girl, before we get into the night everything fell apart, you need to understand exactly who Nancy Bowen was. Because you cannot feel the weight of this story without knowing what was lost. Nancy grew up in a Haitian American family in South Florida. She graduated from Florida A&M, then got her master's degree in environmental health sciences from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Yes, that Johns Hopkins. She spent her early career doing environmental justice work across Florida. Real work, responding to water crises, natural disasters, Hurricanes Irma, Michael, Dorian. She worked in Senator Bill Nelson's office. She worked in the Obama administration. And in 2020, she ran for Coral Springs City Commissioner and made history as the first Black and Haitian American woman ever elected to that seat. 4 years later, she ran again. And you know what her competition looked like? Nothing. Not one person filed to run against her. In a democracy, where anyone can file. By November 2024, she was serving her second term as vice mayor. The Florida Democratic Party named her vice chair of Haitian American voter outreach. Biden called, then Harris called. She was Florida Caribbean vote director for both presidential campaigns. She was one of the first elected officials to publicly clap back at G.D. Vance over his Haitian immigrant comments, and the whole country noticed. She was not building towards something. She was already there, and she was still going.
So my heart is extremely heavy. My soul is heavy. My heart is broken. And we know that time is going to move and time is going to do its thing. But for us that are in this city, in the city hall, that have been touched or impacted by Vice Mayor Nancy Bowen, that is something, that is a loss that is going to take a lot of time to deal with.
And that right there is not a prepared statement. That is a man who genuinely lost someone he loved working alongside. Her mentee Crystal Louidor said every single conversation with Nancy started the same way. Not with small talk. With, what are we going to do to help the people, every time. Now here is something the other coverage keeps glossing over. In December 2025, 3 months before her death, Nancy lost her younger brother Joshua. He was 26. He had survived the Parkland shooting in 2018, one of the deadliest school shootings in American history, and spent years afterwards carrying what that does to a person. In December, he died by suicide. Nancy grieved him publicly, posted about him, carried it openly while still showing up to every meeting, every event, every community function. She was working through one of the worst losses a person can experience, and she did not stop. And here is the question nobody is sitting with. What was happening at home during all of that? Because grief does not happen in a vacuum. It happens inside a marriage too. And the person across the table from you when you are at your lowest either holds you up or shows you exactly who they are. I will let you decide which one Stephen was. Now let's talk about Stephen. Because what the internet found when it went looking was, honestly, very on the nose. Stephen was 40, 2 years older than Nancy. Radiology technician at Delray Medical Center. Chief operating officer of a faith-based nonprofit called Men of Sate, Luke, which exists, in their own words, to create a community for fellowship and discipleship among men who want to live life successfully in the eyes of God. I want to sit with that for a second. A non-profit. For men. About living successfully. Run by a man whose wife was one of the most accomplished public servants in Broward County. And the calendar events were a Bible study huddle and a steak night. Stephen Bowen built his entire identity around being the authority. The head. God, husband, armed. The man at the top of his own org chart. Even if that org chart ended at the steak night. And then every morning he woke up next to a woman who was, without even thinking about the comparison, just simply more. More accomplished, more visible, more celebrated, more everything. His Instagram had 7 posts. 7. 2 were anniversary photos where she is clearly the one people are looking at. The rest were guns, shooting range drills, tactical practice. Automatic rifles handled with the ease of someone who does this often and enjoys it. He didn't just own guns, he trained. He documented it. He was proud of it, and he put the word armed in his bio like a credential. Now here is the detail that almost every outlet covering this story either missed or buried. The afternoon of March 31st, before the shooting, Stephen called his mother and told her he was having a panic attack and that he was going to go talk to his wife about it. A panic attack. Those were his words. To his own mother. Hours before he picked up a shotgun. So here is the real question. Was this the breaking point of something that had been rotting inside this marriage for months? Or was panic attack the cover story he was already rehearsing before he even walked upstairs? Because what came next was not the behavior of a man in crisis. It was the behavior of a man who had already made up his mind. It was Tuesday night, March 31st, not April 1st, which is when the world found out, the night of the 31st. And that distinction matters because almost every outlet got it wrong, and it changes what you understand about this man. Because while the world went to sleep on a Tuesday, while Coral Springs was quiet, while Nancy's colleagues were setting their Wednesday alarms, Stephen Bowen walked upstairs. He had already prepared. Investigators found a pillow on the bed with burn marks and string tied around it, fashioned into a makeshift silencer. You do not engineer a silencer out of household materials in a moment of rage. That takes thought. That takes time. That takes a decision that was already made before the moment arrived. He shot her 3 times with a shotgun. Then he went downstairs and slept. The next morning, surveillance footage shows him returning to the home at 9:55 a.m. He left at 12:09 p.m. Over 2 hours. In the house, with her body upstairs in the bedroom they shared. What does a person do for 2 hours in that house? I genuinely need someone to explain that to me. While he was doing whatever he was doing in those 2 hours, Nancy's city was already noticing she wasn't where she was supposed to be. Missed her morning commission meeting. Phone going to voicemail. A city staffer texted Stephen asking if he could have Nancy call them. And Stephen texted back. Said he had texted her. Said her car wasn't home. Said he had no idea where she was. He typed all of that, while her body was upstairs. And the city staffer had absolutely no reason not to believe him, because he sounded exactly like a worried husband. Cooperative. Concerned. Offering details. That is not shock. Shock makes people incoherent. That was a performance. Clean and deliberate. The plan unraveled not because of forensics. Not because of surveillance. Not because a detective pieced something together. It unraveled because Stephen Bowen, the man who engineered a silencer and texted city officials with a straight face, needed to tell somebody. He drove to his uncle's house and told him he had done something to her, that she was not alive. The uncle asked why. Stephen said he couldn't take it anymore. Couldn't take it anymore. Okay, and I need to ask this out loud because it deserves to be asked directly. Take what, Stephen? She was not humiliating you publicly. She was not tearing you down. She was not doing a single thing to you. She was just rising. And somewhere along the way, her rising became something this man experienced as a personal attack. That reframe. That specific move of turning your partner's success into your own suffering. That is one of the most dangerous things that can happen inside a marriage. And it almost always stays invisible until it doesn't. The uncle listened. And then the uncle called. Give that man his flowers. Stephen walked into his uncle's home and handed him the worst possible choice. Family or truth. And the uncle chose truth. Because of that one phone call, Nancy's family knows what happened. The truth is on record. And Stephen's plan, whatever was left of it, was finished. SWAT forced entry. They found Nancy in the second-floor master bedroom. In the bed, wrapped in blankets and garbage bags. 3 shotgun shells. The pillow with the burn marks. She had been there since Tuesday night. Now here is the part that other videos covering this story almost entirely missed. Stephen was not just driving around after he left. He had a plan for the weapon too. Surveillance and license plate readers tracked his black Ford F-150 to an apartment complex in Plantation. And when officers watched him in that parking lot, they saw him hand a bag, consistent with a rifle or shotgun case, to another man. That man was a Freemason, a fellow lodge member. Stephen told him they needed to meet about an upcoming lodge meeting. The Freemason took the bag inside, came back out without it, and told investigators he had no idea what Stephen had done. But he said that as they were both taken into custody, Stephen looked around and said, "Oh shit, They're here for me. Not what's happening. Not there must be a mistake. They're here for me. Because he always knew. There was never a version of this where he didn't know. Stephen Bowen was taken into custody April 1st, 2026. No incident. Invoked his right to a lawyer immediately. Thursday morning, April 2nd, he appeared before a Broward County judge. Brief hearing. Probable cause found on both charges. First-degree premeditated murder. Tampering with physical evidence. Bond denied. Remanded to Broward County Main Jail where he remains. Premeditated is not a word prosecutors attach carelessly. It means this case, from day one, was never about a moment that got out of hand. The silencer confirms it. The sleep confirms it. The texts confirm it. The Freemason gun handoff confirms it. No trial date has been set. Yesterday, April 3rd, 2026, Coral Springs held a candlelight vigil on the steps of City Hall. Orange and green. White candles. And people came. April 3rd was also supposed to be the day Nancy announced her run for the 20th Congressional District. Her team had been finalizing it. The support was there. The leaders were lined up. She was ready. Instead, it became the night her city stood outside the building she served in, holding flames, trying to figure out how to carry her absence. Nancy Metea Bowen was 38 years old. Johns Hopkins degree. History maker. Presidential campaign director. A woman her entire city loved so much that nobody dared run against her. A woman who buried her brother in December and still showed up to every single meeting in January. A woman who came home every night to that house with no reason to believe the most dangerous place she could be was her own bedroom. And here is what I want to leave you with. This was not a hidden relationship. It was a public marriage. Anniversary posts at City Hall. 7 Instagram posts. A 3-word bio. The signs were not hidden. They were just dressed in the right language. God. Husband. Armed. Reads like conviction when you skim it. Reads like something else entirely when you know how the story ends. So the real question, the one I think we all need to sit with, is not just what Stephen Bowen did. It is what we keep missing when men build their whole identity around authority, around being the head, around dominion. And the woman next to them just quietly keeps outgrowing the ceiling he set for both of them. Nancy deserved the Congress run. She deserved to come home to someone genuinely proud of her, not quietly destroyed by her. Rest well, Nancy.